ER says in bigger. ER says in bigger. What other words have ER in there? Helper, softer, slower, smaller, dresser, and louder. Same thing for all those. EST sounds like est in biggest. EST sounds like est in biggest. LY sounds like li in slowly. LY sounds like li in slowly. EN sounds like in sharpen. EN sounds like in sharpen. ES sounds like S in peaches. ES sounds like S in peaches. ILD sounds like ILD in child. ILD sounds like ILD in child. IND sounds like IND in kind. IND sounds like IND in kind. O sounds like in shovel. O can sound like O or in shovel. A sounds like in banana. Has two different sounds in the word banana. So it comes like a or a in the same word. But in the word zebra or camera, it sounds like a. C sounds like s in city. C can sound like s in city. AU sounds like in faucet. AU sounds like in faucet. AW sounds like in saw. AW sounds like in saw. EA sounds like E in leaf. EA sounds like E in leaf. EA can also sound like A in thread. EA can sound like E in thread. EA can also sound like A in steak. EA can sound like A in steak. So it can sound like A in steak. It can sound like E in thread. And it can also sound like E in leaf. IE sounds like E in brownie. IE sounds like E in brownie. EY sounds like E in key. EY sounds like E in key. Or it can sound like A in obey. It can sound like A in obey. In the word they, pray, survey, it sounds like A in obey. PH sounds like F in phone. PH sounds like F in phone. CH sounds like K in chorus. CH can sound like K in a chorus. OUGHT says ought in thought. OUGHT says ought in thought. AUGHT sounds the same way in ought in caught. AUGHT says ought in caught. G says J in giant. G says J in giant. When it's followed by a E, I, or Y, G sounds like J. DGE says J in fudge. DGE sounds like J in fudge. A can sound like in asleep. A can sound like in asleep. Usually, if it makes the sound in this way, it's at the beginning of a word. But remember, in banana, it also had that sound. AL sounds like in also. AL sounds like in also. BE sounds like B in because. BE sounds like B in because. EN sounds like in enjoy. EN sounds like in enjoy. UN says in unbutton. UN says in unbutton. WR says r in wrinkle. WR says r in wrinkle. OULD says would and could. OULD says would and could. It would also say would and should. OULD says would and should. AIR says air in hair. AIR says air in hair. U sounds like in push. U sounds like in push. OUGH sounds like in enough. OUGH sounds like in enough. Or in the word tough. OU sounds like in country. OU sounds like in country. ARR sounds like R in carry. Air and carry. ARR sounds like air and carry. IRE sounds like ire and fire. IRE sounds like ire and fire. FUL says full and beautiful. FUL says full and beautiful. ARE says air and care. ARE says air and care. TAIN says tan and mountain. TAIN says tan and mountain. URE says you're impure. URE says you're impure. TURE says ch in pasture. TURE says ch in pasture. But picture sounds the same way too as it TURE. WAR says war in warm. WAR says war and warm. TION says shun in nation. TION says shun in nation. SION says shun in missionary. SION says shun in missionary. SION can also say shun in television. S sounds like j, television. SION can say shun in television. EIGH says A in 8. EIGH says A in 8. OR says or in sailor. OR says in sailor. Or OR can say in pastor or doctor. AR says in dollar. AR says in dollar. Y says I in crystal. Y says I in crystal. And ERR sounds like air in cherry. Sounds like air in cherry. Or Mary, or Barry, or Terry, or Fairy, or Aaron, or in the sky.